Oh, hello. Nice to see you. This is episode 8 of the franchise. I'm your host, Daniel Ehrenberg.
I'm your host, Henry Papali. This is indeed episode 8.
That's right. We're going to be talking about two classic pieces of cinema. Back to the Future's Part 2 and 3, both directed by Rob Zemeckis, written by Bob Gale, with a story credit by Zemeckis.
Yep.
I do like how highfalutin they went with the titles on these movies, where they decided they wanted to have the word part in there and Roman numerals.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. I noticed both, but didn't make the connection of how highfalutin that truly is.
Back to the Future getting a little full of itself.
Part, Roman numeral 2.
That's right. Part II. Let's talk about that one first.
Yeah.
All right. So, we could kind of bring in Part 3 already a little bit. Because the weird thing about these movies, this is the first time we'll talk about a thing like this, is that they were filmed not concurrently, but back to back, right?
Right.
So, they're on a budget of $40 million, and basically they had to divvy it up between two movies.
Which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Like, that they weren't given carte blanche to just have a budget for each one. Why were they given a lump sum? What's that about?
Well, this was an early experiment, right? I wonder when we get to The Matrix if Warner Brothers did the same thing with Reloaded and Revolution.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Could be, but we'll find out. But anyway, Back to the Future Part 2 was released November 22nd, 1989. A November release, kind of interesting.
Yeah, a little weird.
Not the same. Again, a little highfalutin. They're bringing it out in Oscar season.
Yeah. Oscar season, and we don't need to release this in the summer or Christmas. We can release it whenever the fuck we want.
Yeah, basically. Right. It's going to be a hit regardless. And hey, they were right. It made $332 million at the box office. Not quite as much as the first one, but still a massive hit. It was the third highest grossing film of 1989. Did you look into that?
I did see that. That's funny.
Do you know what the top two were?
1989? No, I didn't look, but let me guess. I think I know number one has got to be Batman.
Actually, shockingly, number 2 was Batman. Number 1 kind of blew my mind. I couldn't believe what a big hit this thing was.
Give me an actor.
I'll tell you, it is a film we will be covering on the franchise.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, give me something more than that.
It's got Sean Connery.
1980. Oh, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
That's right. Yeah.
Wow, that outperformed Batman?
It did.
That is shocking to me. I mean, if any movie would, that would fit the bill, but I thought Batman was like a legendary blockbuster of proportions that were unmatched. Wow.
I'll be honest, I was never an Indiana Jones guy growing up. Like,
I was.
I didn't see Raiders for the first time till college.
Yeah.
So, I think I missed the boat. Like, maybe if I saw that thing when I was, 10, I would have thought it was, baller as fuck.
Yeah, I grew up with those movies, so they were always just in my lexicon of childhood. So, yeah. Yeah,
I always knew them from, the main beats,
Right.
You grow up getting when they make reference in something to Indiana Jones, you get it because they're so iconic. I hate snakes or the rolling ball or whatever. But
or my favorite, which has applied to me recently, it's not the years, honey, it's the mileage.
Ooh, I don't even remember that line.
That's from Raiders. Yeah.
Okay.
Great line.
I'll flag up my favorite line. One of my favorite all-time movie lines is in Back to the Future Part 3. We'll get there.
Oh, all right. Well, you're kind of right that these two will kind of be intersecting when we talk. But yeah, I guess we could start.
Only in the
there.
behind-the-scenes stuff.
Well-
Let's talk about the actual movie, part 2.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Oh, you mean just because like part 2 foreshadows part 3?
Well, yeah, there's like a thing in that happened in 2 that I actually wrote a note about, thinking, not giving Zemeckis enough credit, where there's a throwaway line. Should I just say it? I mean, who cares? I'll just say it now.
Yeah,
it was about, because in the future of 2015, Marty McFly is kind of a loser. And it kind of goes against the grain of everything we've learned. And there's a throwaway line that's almost not even mic'd correctly. And it's Leah Thompson saying, "Oh, your father was never the same after he hurt his hand in that car accident."
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and then I was like, "What?" So I wrote a note.
I think that might have been ADR. That's why you're picking up on the
but
odd miking.
Right, but still, the line is never referenced again in the second movie. And then never referenced again until the last 5 minutes of the last movie. And then it's like, oh, okay. So
Yeah,
it was like, it was very odd, because basically that's saying he hurt his hand in a car accident, couldn't become a rock star, and therefore became a loser. That's exactly what they're saying. But there's not a lot of expository dialogue to, set that up. So it was a very strange choice, but there's a lot of strange choices.
Well, I will say, jumping right in,
Yes.
there was a period of my life where I was one of these assholes that claimed Back to the Future Part 2 was the best Back to the Future movie.
Wow. Yeah.
Because, you watch it, you're a fucking angsty teenager. Part 2 is a little darker. It's got some
really
crazier ideas.
Yeah.
And, it's very... This trilogy almost exactly, in terms of quality and in terms of tone, follows the original Star Wars trilogy.
Explain.
Because the second one's dark and interesting and doesn't have any interest in standing alone at all. And then the third one is a little goofier and wraps things up in a neat little bow.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. I will say that I was very pleasant, without giving our ratings away yet. I was really, really surprised at how much I liked 2 and 3. My memories of these movies were very vague. The first one was just one of those ones that I just always came back to, had no use for the second and third one, because I'd seen them once or twice, and I thought they were mediocre. Now, I really came back a little different with them. I really looked at them a different way. I really admired them. So I was very happy to discover that. I was kind of dreading watching them and coming back and being like, yeah, they suck. They're terrible. They don't suck. They're not terrible.
No, they're good. I've always liked these movies, and
I know you have. I remember that was one of the first conversations you and me ever had. Was it Back to the? I don't know if you remember that.
I don't at all. What was it?
Well, you basically were.
Did I say Part 2 is the best one?
No, I don't think you said that. But you were extolling the virtues of. I was really shitting on them, and I said that come on, man, they're junk. They're junk. And you said no. They're actually really good. You should watch them again. And I dismissed that, not because I didn't value your opinion, but I was so steadfast in my own on this franchise. I don't know why. I was just like, I'm not watching these again.
Yeah.
And I was wrong. I was totally wrong. Unlike your boy, though, Dan Harmon, I've got a unique quote from him.
Oh, hit me up.
Yeah,
Community creator Dan Harmon.
I knew you'd like that. In that documentary I referenced last week that's not really good, but he's in it a lot, Dan Harmon. And he said they both suck. That's a quote.
Okay.
They both suck. He even said it, he prefaced it by saying, are Zemeckis and Gale going to see this? Yeah, I guess they will. Well, all right, they know. I'm just going to say it. These movies both suck.
Well, I disagree with my boy Dan Harmon, but yeah, I think the second one is easier to defend. Like, a lot of people like that second movie, but I've been trying to unsuccessfully defend the third one my entire life, basically.
Well, you're going to have help today, my friend.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually like the third one a little bit better than I like the second one.
Okay, well, let's get to our rankings later.
I know. Yeah. We set up the plot. Good luck.
Yeah, that's the thing about parts
Two. Well, really just
part
two.
two in particular. Yeah, like we talked about how elegant and simple the plotting was in the
Yeah.
first one last week.
Yeah.
The plotting in part two is complicated and ridiculous to the point where Doc Brown has to pull out a whiteboard halfway through the movie, or a chalkboard, and just like explain what's happening.
Basically for us as
Yeah.
much as that. I'll help you out if you need help. I wrote a little bit of like bullet point notes on where things are. How many timelines. I kind of did a Doc Brown.
So Jennifer, Marty's girlfriend, and Marty and the Doc, they all go forward to the future in 2015. We could talk about how exactly correct they got that. And
Yeah, and real quick, which will help you set up the plot. Extraordinarily flimsy premise to go Back to the Future, by the way. I always did think that.
well, because there was never supposed to be a second movie, and the cliffhanger at the end of the first one was a joke.
Right, and also the to be continued added on the video release. Did
That's
you read?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew that.
Yeah.
It helps my enjoyment of this series, too, that I watched it as a complete thing. Like, I never saw any of these movies until they were all made.
I think I saw 2 and 3 in theaters.
Ooh.
Yeah, I believe so.
Showing your age.
I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, not the first one. That's purely was a video experience. But
Sure.
yeah.
Okay,
So
so
go ahead.
they go into the future. Not Back to the Future yet, although they say that title 100 times in these movies.
Yeah.
What is it? Marty gets an almanac, and Biff steals it and goes back in time and gives it to younger Biff.
Right.
And he becomes Donald Trump. And then there's an alternate present, 1985, where Biff is just Donald Trump and married to Lorraine. And Billy Zane is there for no reason.
Right.
And they're watching Westerns in a hot tub. And then Marty and Doc have to go back to 1955 without interacting with themselves and steal the almanac back from Biff to write the present.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I don't know if I could have said it so coherently. Yeah. Yeah, so basically there's a 2015. There's just one 2015. We're dealing with two 1985s, one 1955, and all of it is pretty much because of two reasons. Marty's kid in 2015 is simply going to do like a little caper and is going to do some jail time.
Yeah, and they want to stop that.
I say let it happen and don't go anywhere.
Well, of course. They didn't want this to be the premise of the movie, and that's
Yeah.
why they get rid of that storyline
Real quick.
20 minutes in or something.
Yeah, so Marty, in a moment of weakness, which I would have definitely done as well, buys a sports almanac to predict make some money. Doc says you can't do that, throws it in the garbage. Grandpa Biff, or the real Biff, picks it up, visits himself in the past to give him that, to make him prosperous, which then fucks up the entire time continuum. I'm reiterating your plot point, but trying to hit on a little different, slight.
I gotcha.
Yeah, and the alternate 85, which I thought was the best part of this particular movie, the alternate 85. I like that.
I like the alternate 85. It's a little Ridley Scottish.
Yeah.
But starting with the future, 2015,
Yes.
I will say clearly that wasn't where Zemeckis and Gale's interests laid.
Which really surprised me because that's not how I remembered the movie at all.
Yeah, they don't spend a lot of time there. And
They really don't.
I will say the worst part of that was they clearly had no interest in using Jennifer as a workable character.
Yeah, that's really bad.
And
That's
so
been commented on.
they knock her unconscious like 10 minutes into this movie, like we're a fucking Popeye cartoon from the 40s. And we're just not dealing with her. Like the Back to the Future movies, particularly the second and third, they're pretty misogynistic.
Yeah, I didn't really think of that. You think so?
I really do. I think they have no interest in the female characters. I think Leah Thompson, who's like one of the most important actors in the movie, in the third one, we're not even using her. I think in that third one, Mary Steenburgen is kind of just like a manic pixie dream girl who's only there to have the same interests as Doc Brown and fall in love with him. Like she's not a character that exists in life. And
Well, she might have existed in 1885.
But she's presented as this forward-thinking woman, and all she's doing is falling in love with Christopher Lloyd.
True.
And they also make Jennifer like if you didn't know better and we watched the second movie without seeing the first one, and I was like, catching you up on the first one, that character is mentally retarded. You'd believe me.
Why do you say that? Because Elizabeth Shue is...
She's just always flopping around and passing out and not knowing what the fuck is going on. Like it's really bad. And Elizabeth Shue, kind of a bad performance. For an actor I don't really mind usually.
Oh, I like her a lot, but in this movie, not much to do. She's only about 5 years away from leaving Las Vegas, which is kind of astonishing.
Yeah, so maybe put her in more scenes. She's in like 2 scenes in this movie, and she fucking gets knocked unconscious.
They didn't want her in it. There's stuff written about that. You know, not that they didn't want her in it.
Well, they regretted putting Jennifer in the car at the end of the first one.
Again, though, a line of dialogue gets her out of the car.
No, you can't, because it already was flying.
Oh, it already took off.
Yeah. They reshot that scene shot for shot. It's kind of weird.
Claudia Wells.
Yeah, poor bastard, Claudia Wells.
She
opted out, right? Like
she had her
asked
mother.
Her back.
Her mother was dying, and so she couldn't come back to film.
So what? Jenna Maraska played Survivor in season 8, and her mother was dying.
Oh, for God's sakes!
I'll shoehorn them in, guys.
Yeah, I'm sure we see. I see that. Yeah, so they did do a shot for shot. That was funny. That was just weird to watch. But yeah. That brings me up to an interesting little digression, which I wrote actually during the third movie. In your estimation, how many fucking times does Marty get a concussion in this trilogy?
Oh, well, 3, because they like the gag where he wakes up and he's like,
I got news for you, bub. It's more than 3. This character would have brain damage. I mean, he gets knocked unconscious, not just when he's waking up into another time.
Oh, that's true. He gets hit by that door at one point.
He's always getting knocked, and it's always unconscious, which is funny because it's like cartoonish, but it's just hilarious. It's like he never just can fall and not get knocked unconscious. He's out of it, out cold. Put in bed, out cold, smelling salts. Love it.
A lot of people do in these movies, though. I feel like Robert Zemeckis thinks it's way easier to knock someone unconscious than it actually is. And it might
don't know what to do with them. Knock them out.
Yeah, it might be because, like, his previous movie, like in between Back to the Future and Back to the Future Part 2, he made Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh my God!
So he might still be thinking cartoon physics.
Yeah.
And cartoon treatment of ladies.
Yeah, Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, you're right.
Yeah. So, best thing about 2015 is they predicted the rise of the franchise correctly.
Yeah.
But they got the franchise wrong.
Yeah,
Because
that's funny.
We see
But
an
who-
ad for Jaws 19.
Well-
and we'd already seen the backside of that franchise by the time Back to the Future Part 2 came out.
That's a great point. But I did like the little dig at it they gave it because it said in the background, this time it's personal. And
I think it said this time it's really personal.
Yeah, you're right. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. You're right because I actually wasn't that the actual tagline of Jaws 4?
Yeah, Jaws the Revenge. This time it's personal.
Oh my God! Yeah. So they
Starring
get
Michael Caine.
Michael Caine, who did not go to the Oscars to receive his Oscar for Hannah and her Sisters because he was in the Barbados shooting Jaws 4.
More on that later episode of this.
Isn't that great though?
Yeah, I
That's
know. Oh, I love that. I think about that every time I see Michael Caine in anything.
Yeah, it's just phenomenal. Yeah.
Here's something. I did not remember that Nobody Calls Me Chicken doesn't show up until the second one.
I didn't remember that either, and when it came up, I was like, "Did I miss that in the first one?" And I
no,
was like,
it's never
no,
in
I
the
didn't.
first one.
So why did they? Yeah, that was odd.
Well, they wanted to do the thing with needles at the end, and it would be a real like character beat for Marty. But yeah, they in between the first and second movie, Marty develops an inability to be called chicken without losing his goddamn mind, or Yella in the third
Yella.
one. Yeah,
right.
That's
right.
one of my favorite line readings in all three of these movies is Michael J. Fox's "Nobody Calls Me Yellow." So yeah, that's setting stuff up for Needles, played by Flea. That's
Yeah.
right. Red Hot Chili Peppers bassist Flea's in these movies.
Yeah.
And by the way, Red Hot Chili Peppers not really a thing yet.
Not really. I mean, I think by '89, if my musical history is correct, I know they hadn't come out with Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
No, that's 91.
Right, but they had come out. If I mean, not. Did they not do the Stevie Wonder cover of Higher Ground, which was kind of a hit?
Yeah, but that was on Mother's Milk, which came out in '89, I believe.
Yeah, so
so that would have been like they're just breaking
they're
a
breaking,
little bit.
yeah. But he's hardly like a recognizable face, right?
No, he's just sort of hanging around these movies being Flea. It's
Right.
odd.
It is odd.
Yeah.
To talk about the future, other things they got right, wrong.
Hey, they knew Elijah Wood was going to be a star. I'll tell you that much.
I didn't know that till I read the credits.
No, I noticed him. He's a little kid in the diner.
All right.
Yeah, they got sort of holograms, right?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they got like mobile devices. There are screens everywhere, which is pretty accurate.
The hoverboard was almost accurate.
No, it wasn't.
Almost accurate.
It was not. It was a
With
joke.
Those exist in the Army.
What are you talking about?
Those they have those hover tanky things that run on air on the. Never saw those. They have
an Area 51.
No. Don't you ever watch the Discovery Channel?
No.
No. Yeah, there's like massive, large, tanky things that resemble that. I'll stop.
They resemble that? What? They have a Mattel logo on them?
No, they're hovercrafts. Hovercrafts. That's what I'm trying to think of.
All right.
Over the what? And also, what's that garbage that's out now that you see all the time with those things that supposedly keep you up, but then they had to recall a whole bunch, all of them, because someone got killed?
What are you talking about?
I'm sorry. I went to the mall recently, and there's this kid selling these skateboards that run on like air and wheels, and they call them hoverboards. You don't have any idea what I'm talking about.
No.
Being in New York, I guess you wouldn't see this, but being out here in the malls, you see them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a really long tangent that had no. I had no backup there.
What?
You have no fucking clue what I'm talking about.
I'm sorry.
That's great. That's so good. No, but yeah, okay. So hoverboards they didn't get right, but they will eventually. I do think those are going to be around.
I think those hoverboards, they seem very intuitive, don't they? In that everyone who rides one in any of these movies is immediately a fucking expert at it.
Including Christopher Lloyd in 3.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a gorgeous shot, though. I'll give him that one.
Yeah. I do like, though, that our listeners will probably know what I'm talking about with that phenomenon. I want to even look it up, but keep going.
Hey, if you know what Henry's talking about, tell me on Twitter. And if you don't know what he's talking about, tell me on Twitter so we can laugh at him. All right, so part 2. What else you got for part 2? I will say another thing they got wrong in the future. That was my favorite thing. You know, they have like a little thing on their TV. They're watching the Scenery channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're flipping between different scenery options. And at one point, they flip to Manhattan, and all you see is the Twin Towers.
Oh, boy. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Zemeckis and Gale obviously not implicated in 9/11. They didn't know what was happening.
I found what I'm talking about.
Okay.
It's called a hoverflex.
Oh, who could care? Let's move on.
I'm just telling you.
Okay.
It exists.
I believe you.
It's a self-balancing thing that has a little skinny rail in the middle, and they don't hover over anything, but they call themselves hoverflex boards. Flowboard hoverboards. That's that. $229, folks. All right. The cafe.
The Cafe 80s.
Cafe 80s.
Yeah, those kind of exist now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but they did not properly predict that Pizza Hut would be the prime force in fast food pizza today, because I don't believe it is anymore.
No, and it's horrible.
Pizza Hut had its run in like the early 90s, though. I remember I had like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles poster in my room that was like endorsed by Pizza Hut. Like it had a Pizza Hut logo on it.
Cowabunga.
Yeah, we'll get to that franchise.
I thought something was extremely accurate, even though in the specifics it wasn't. I love the fashion stuff where Doc, not what they're wearing, but when Marty puts on the clothes from the future and Doc goes like, make sure you turn your pockets inside out. Everyone wears them inside out. Your hats too. I love that because of all the stupidity that surrounds how people dressed. Like even in '89, that's when the baggy pants started coming around.
Sure, and now you can't buy jeans without fake rips in them.
And you can't buy and if you want to be cool, you buy baseball hats with the you buy the caps and you don't take off the logos. You notice that?
I think that was more the hip hop scene about 20 years ago.
No, that's still going on, my friend.
In Barnegat, New Jersey?
No, I see that in New York. I saw that in New York. Okay. What are you talking about? Kids walking around with the Yankee caps with the like 3930 sticker still on it, like the logo. Oh yeah. In other words, they predicted stupid fashion.
Sure.
You know.
But that was already happening. It was the 80s, for God's sake.
Yeah, God
There's
bless.
no fashion stupider.
God bless. Max Headroom makes an appearance.
Sort of, yeah. The sort of Max Headroom technology, anyway.
Which I remember very clearly.
Oh, me too.
Yeah. Just Say No makes an appearance. Ronald Reagan again.
Michael Jackson.
The Ayatollah Khomeini.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we leave that period. We go back to the alternate present. It actually, I'll give the script for Back to the Future Part 2 one thing, and it has a perfect 3-act structure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, the future, fake present, and then the past.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and everything's given kind of equal weight.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
I agree with you that middle part's my favorite, but I think Part 2 is a pretty rock-solid movie, even if the physics aren't as consistent as the first one.
Aren't as sound.
Yeah.
A little bit of racism going on in that alternate in 85, or a little bit of prescience, depending on how one looks at it from a political spectrum. When Marty goes to, Jennifer's house, or his house, and that black family is living there, and immediately pulls a shotgun on him because it's like a massive ghetto.
Yeah, but I also think it's it's yeah, I'll give him that one a little bit because like they just present the world as a hellhole. Like then he shows
Right.
up at Strickland's house and there's like a drive-by and
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I think there's just guns everywhere, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, is it possible that the alternate 1985 Biff actually is a Donald Trump reference? He was already kind of a thing.
Oh,
and
he was. What do you mean? He was already.
No, I know. And the hair is kind of similar.
Yeah, I think it could be.
And the giant building with his name on it.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I mean, he was not yet a TV phenomenon, but he was absolutely a cultural phenomenon. Cultural. What's another word for icon? Because he certainly wasn't that. He was like a Leona Helmsley.
Yeah, he was like a tabloid figure.
Exactly. There
Yeah,
you go. Yeah,
you know.
yeah. So there you go. Yeah, for sure. Trophy wife. all
Sure,
that.
Marla Maples happened just like a couple years after these
Right.
movies.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Little foreshadowing. So they got that future right.
Yeah, they did. They were ahead of their time on
And
that
they
one.
almost got the World Series right.
Well, my favorite bit about that is it says that the Cubs beat Miami,
Right.
And they like Miami as a franchise, a baseball franchise, did not exist yet.
But only a few years later, they did as the Florida Marlins.
Sure, but yeah, when was that? Like 90...
93, I'd say. But
Oh, that's right. Yeah, like 93, 94 was them and the Rockies came up, and then they
Yeah.
won the series in 97 or 98.
That's right. Right.
Yeah.
But the Cubs did make it to the final four, and were knocked out by my Metsies. But they did make it in 2015.
All right,
Almost.
you can have your shoehorned in Mets reference. I had my Survivor reference. That's
Yeah,
fine.
Can I? We're 8 episodes in. I haven't ever once mentioned the Mets.
That's
so,
true. It's just shocking to me.
So there you go. But that was pretty funny though, that they predicted that. And,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they were all right. You know, they got flying cars wrong, but didn't Zemeckis say in an interview like they knew that
Yes.
was bullshit? They just liked the idea of having flying cars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he said that, and he did know there would be hoverboards. And so, anyway, yeah, the Cubs in there, and then that reminded me of one of your favorite shows. Wasn't there, if memory serves me correctly, an episode of Lost where they're trying to convince Jack that it's a certain year and the Red Sox have won the World Series, and he's like, "Get out of here."
Yeah.
And they did.
Yeah, because Lost premiered in 2004 and doesn't span that much time until like season 4, and so in like the second season of Lost, it's still supposed to be only like November of 2004 or something.
Right.
And he gets captured by, or I think this is the beginning of season 3.
Yeah.
He's captured by the others, and Ben Linus has him in like a room, and he calls bullshit, and then Ben Linus pulls out like a tape recording of like the final game of that series.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, baby, Lost.
I did that for you.
Thank you. Let's cover that franchise.
Okay.
No, we can't.
Okay.
Um,
Sure, there'll be a movie.
you got anything else to say about this movie?
Let me look over my notes.
I enjoyed that Doc Brown was wearing a, like a Hawaiian shirt the entire movie. That the pattern was pictures of trains, I believe.
Was it?
Yeah, setting up that third one.
I noticed the Hawaiian shirt. I did not notice the train. I'm sure, honestly, that we'll come back to the second one because there's so many references. But we can go on to rating it and MVP, LVP if you want.
Okay, I will say that this movie ends on a trailer, which is rare.
Very rare.
Yeah.
I don't know if that had ever been done, and I don't know if I've ever seen it again.
No, it's like they just used footage, whatever they had from Back to the Future Part 3, and put it at the second one to get you hyped, like before the credits even roll.
Yeah.
So it's like you're watching that Part 2, it ends, you're like, oh, that was okay. And then you're watching this, and you're like, oh, shit, I got to see that third one. ZZ Top is in it.
That's why I wanted to see the third one.
Yeah.
Not really, but this time that's why I wanted to see the third one.
Oh, are they spinning them instruments again? Let's go see that.
Yeah. By the way, last week you made a reference. You said out of nowhere, you said legs. She knows how to use them.
Yeah.
Was that what you meant?
Yeah, that's my only ZZ Top reference.
That was great because last week I had no fucking clue what you were saying, and I laughed anyway. I was like, okay, ZZ Top reference. What's that about? And now I know.
Yeah, because they show up in that movie, that third one. All right, but let's rate the second one. You want to go first?
Yeah, this was tough for me. I changed it. I went 4. I'm going 3.
Ah.
I'm going a strong 3. I can't give it 4. I mean, it's a little too wacky for its own good, but it's so much fun. They're all having a good time. And
they're all having a good time.
I'm going to give it 3.
God bless them.
God bless him. God love him. And, honestly, I was going into this completely thinking I was going to give it a 2. So I'm happy with a 3-star rating on this movie.
I'm going 4.
Yeah, I figured you would.
Yeah.
MVP, LVP?
Ooh, yeah. Well, we will say that I said Crispin Glover would be my MVP in any movie Crispin Glover is in. Crispin Glover, not in this movie.
No.
Yeah.
No,
it was a harsh legal battle. He won some money, actually, from Universal Pictures.
And rightly so. Rightly so. I mean, what they did was not cool.
Yeah, they used his image without telling him. He talked about it a lot in his interview with Marc Maron on WTF. So if you're more interested, check that out, because you could hear it sort of from the Glover's mouth. And... yeah, he couldn't say how much money he got because he,
he's not very good at confrontation.
No. Well, that's true too. But the case was decided with anonymity clauses and stuff.
No, I know, but do you like my little slip in there?
Of course I do. I got it.
Yeah, so.
And I think he used some of that money to finance those Asperger's movies. Or not Asperger's. I'm such an asshole. No, Down syndrome. The movies with the actors that all have Down syndrome.
Yeah. Asperger's 3, Risk Addiction.
There have now been more Asperger's references on this podcast than Mets references. Sorry.
True. We'll fix that. My LVP is fake Crispin Glover.
Yeah, okay. I like that choice.
Yeah.
I like that choice.
Not the actor himself, the guy, Jeffrey Weissman. I'm not going to fault him. He just gets a paycheck.
He's doing what he's doing. It's fine.
But fake Crispin Glover is the LVP. I was going to give it to Billy Zane.
Yeah, good point.
But he's in another category for my superhero count.
Oh, he's the Phantom.
Yep.
Yeah, good point.
Which I didn't want to overshadow my Jimmy Olsen pick from the first one, so he's the Phantom.
Yeah,
I didn't even know whether to count that or not, but it was a superhero.
No, you better count it. If we ever get to an Alec Baldwin movie, you better be talking about The Shadow. Yeah.
My MVP for this one was unequivocal. It was almost going to be Michael J. Fox just because he's so good and has to play all these roles, and even though they're a little minor, he's able to actually do them in convincing, goofy ways. But I'm going to go all the way MVP with Tom Wilson in this movie.
Oh, he's going to be my MVP in part 3.
That makes sense.
I'll flag that up right now.
I wrestled with that.
I love him as Mad Dog Tannen
so
much.
But I like him in this as Donald Trump in the penthouse sequence when he's explaining the whole almanac. I think he's just great. And he's great in all 3 roles he plays in this. He plays young Biff, old Biff, Trump Biff. Yeah.
yeah, he's very good. I love Tom Wilson. My MVP in this, I haven't really given it thought, but I suppose I'll go Michael J. Fox. I don't love him in the scenes where he's playing his daughter, which is another misogynistic. That's another misogynistic thing about this movie, where they could have had Elizabeth Shue play the daughter.
That's true. Giving her something to do.
Yeah, but no. The ladies have to be Michael J. Fox. It's odd.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Gloria Steinem, pay attention. You have a new advocate in Daniel Ehrenberg.
Whatever. But yeah, Michael J. Fox rocks it in this one. And
All right.
and I thought about Lloyd too, but I think he's actually better in that third one. But I still gotta go with Thomas F. Wilson. But we'll get there. Hey, so the third one comes out less than a year later. May 25th, 1990, which is so crazy that there's a Back to the Future film that was released in the 90s, because they couldn't be more 80s.
Yeah, well, it was probably filmed in the 80s. So.
No, I know, but still, it's just
Yeah,
odd
it is
to see
true.
that date attached to a Back to the Future movie.
True.
Again, on that shared budget, and this one didn't do as well as the first two. Certainly not a disaster, but it made $244.5 million, which is about $100 million less than the second one made, only a few months prior.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have waited till the fall again, like giving everybody a little break.
Well, you've brought this up before. Maybe is it possible a little fatigue?
That's what I'm saying. I said
Yeah.
that when you brought up X-Men Apocalypse, where I think they should have waited another year for that movie.
Right.
Still, this was the sixth highest grossing film of 1990. Did you look those up?
Nope.
This is a very fun list.
Oh, I'm glad I didn't look it up. I want to play this game. Number one, 1990.
Okay, I will say before you even start, number 7, right after this on the list, Die Hard 2.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
this
was
did
actually going
a
to
little
say
bit
Die
better
Hard.
Yeah. This did a little bit better than Die Hard 2. But what are the 6 movies that did better than this?
Well, since there's 6, I can have a lot of fun with this. Okay. I'd love to think that Goodfellas is in that top 6.
It is not.
Yeah. Okay. Godfather 3.
It is not.
Okay. Total Recall.
That is number 5. Did a
Yes.
little bit better than this.
Yes. Okay. Was this the year of RoboCop 2?
It might have been, but it's not on the list.
Okay. 1990. Come on, Hank. 1990.
All right, this is dead air, man. We can't be dealing with this.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Give me some hints then.
All right.
Fill the air.
Number 4 is a shitty Academy Award winner that you love.
Dances with Wolves.
Boom.
Nice. I sure do.
Num-
Unapologetically.
Number 3 by a recently deceased filmmaker.
I don't know.
Pretty Woman.
Oh, of course. That was a massive hit. All right.
Number 2, it's got a child star in it.
Home Alone.
Yeah, okay.
See, I'm good. This is like $25,000 pyramid.
Sure. And the number 1 film of 1990 with Academy Award winner Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh God. Oh God. That was the number 1. Oh. Oh.
Unchained Melody.
Speaking of phantoms. Oh my. Boy. That would be Ghost, people. In case you didn't pick up on that.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So, Back to the Future Part 3 starts with Universal showing off its brand new logo.
Oh, really? I didn't notice that either.
Yeah. It's, after they have like a montage of all their logos, and it ends with the familiar head-on giant Earth logo.
Right. Boy, what did Robert Zemeckis knock me out for this movie? You're noticing everything.
Boom!
Yeah.
Leah Thompson getting that sweet "and" credit.
Oh, finally. Good for her.
Yeah, even though she is barely in this movie, and everything they give her to do involves her doing one of the worst accents I've ever heard in anything.
I don't agree with that. It's just a very stereotypical accent, but it's not worse than any other bad Irish accent.
It's slightly better than Michael J. Fox's Irish accent. Michael J. Fox and Leah Thompson play ancestors of Marty McFly in this film, and he plays Seamus McFly.
Yeah.
And she plays some dumb lady, because that's what we do in these last 2 movies. And they have to use Irish accents in a bunch of scenes, and it's weird.
I liked it.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't mind. I thought it was fun. It's funny. They're not trying to be Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, it's a...
But
I'm not going for accent accuracy in a Back to the Future movie.
I want some kind of accuracy at all. I will say that I really like the first and third acts of this film. I have big problems starting with Marty getting back to 1885 and going through like the ZZ Top stuff.
Loved it.
You loved it, okay.
I really liked this movie. It
All
was
right.
yeah.
So let me just set up the plot.
Please do.
All right, so the Doc ends up in that second movie back in 1885, sends Marty a letter. It's a cliffhanger, saying that sends him a letter like in the future, you know, saying he's perfectly happy in 1885 with his love, Clara,
Yeah,
and he's a blacksmith.
Yeah, leave me alone.
Yeah, and but then he discovers in 1955 a tombstone for the Doc that is dated only like a week after the letter was sent out.
Right.
And he was shot in the back by Buford Mad Dog Tannen because this movie tries to convince you that the Tannen-McFly rivalry is like 100 years spanning Hatfields-McCoys style
I was
saga.
just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really
Oh,
weird.
also, doesn't he also first get that letter in the second movie with Joe Flaherty in a little cameo delivering it to him?
Yeah, I said that. Yeah.
No, Joe Flaherty, though.
You can mention Joe Flaherty. He delivers Marty the letter, joining Thomas F. Wilson in the Freaks and Geeks Back to the Future crossover club.
Boy, I didn't remember him in Freaks and Geeks.
He's, Lindsay and Sam's dad.
Okay.
He's a regular.
All right.
So Marty has to go back to 1885 to save the Doc, and the time machine gets broken in the process, and they have to build that up, and then Doc falls in love with Clara during this period, and he's nervous whether to leave or whatever.
Right.
This one's also fairly convoluted. But the device of the photograph, which was used to such good effect in the first one, helps.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he took a photograph of the tombstone, and we see it changing based on what's happening in the past, you know?
Yeah, and I liked in this something I also didn't remember, and one of the reasons I liked it more than I remembered liking it was that I remembered this one primarily just being a Western, which it kind of is, but I didn't remember that they do still talk a lot about the time travel stuff. Like, I had this false memory of it just completely obliterating and forgetting about.
Yeah, they're just visiting
Yeah, but that's
1885
not
and
the
doing
case.
a Western. No,
But that's not the case. It's
a
present.
part of the franchise. It's certainly a direct continuation of the second one.
Yeah.
And we're not just doing like a Western, because they still are characters from the future.
Right.
I.e., Michael J. Fox moonwalks in this movie.
That didn't really work, but yeah.
I'll say it again. Michael J. Fox moonwalks in this movie to avoid gunfire.
Yeah, dance! So he decides the best way to avoid the gunfire is the moonwalk.
Sure.
Which apparently works. If you were back in the day,
it would flummox them.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't know what to do with that. I thought a few things were funny in 3 also. I liked when he is in 1955 briefly. He's telling Doc, what they got to do, and Doc makes a reference to go, "Oh, of course this microchip isn't any good. It's made in Japan." And
right.
Michael J. Fox says, "Doc, all the good stuff is made in Japan."
That's very funny.
Yeah,
It's an odd line.
it is, but was very true at the time.
Sure. Yeah, the opening is interesting. Like, before they're back in 1885, it's kind of like moody in a way we don't see in the series, except possibly for like the alternate 85 and the second one.
Yeah.
Like, it opens on storm clouds, like, and there's like a long pan up to like Doc's estate. It's very odd.
Yeah, it is odd. Yeah.
Yeah, they're taking their time with that opening, and
I liked. Yeah, you're right. That was good though. I didn't mind it.
No, I'm that's
Yeah.
a positive for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I loved the repeating of the line that I loved. I did mention it in the first podcast for this. I mentioned it to you off air, but I loved the when in 1885 Doc Brown constructs the model of how they're going to pull this off with the train, and he says the exact same thing he says in the
You
first.
mentioned that in the first one.
Not on air. I
Yes.
didn't.
Yeah. Really?
No. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I said it after. Yeah. Because I had it as a note and I forgot to mention it. Please forgive the crudity of this model, and Michael J. Marty's like, yeah, and I know, Doc, it's not up to scale.
Yeah. And it's
Meanwhile,
perfect
again,
model.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Yeah.
There's a little too much of that in the third one, I think. Just like repeating lines and motifs from the first two movies.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, how many times does Great Scott get uttered in that third one?
A lot.
It's too much. And
Well,
everything's heavy.
a lot of heavy.
That's a great line from the first one we didn't flag up last week.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. What? Everything's heavy in the future. Was there a problem with Earth's gravitational pull? Yeah.
You know what I noticed in the second and third one, which is really interesting. It wouldn't have stuck out to me, but it did. Is it's what is the third one rated? PG?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's PG. I don't even think it's PG-13. They say "holy shit" a lot.
Well, that was a thing in the 80s, man.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's a thing now. I say it all the time. But
No, but I mean, in the 80s, you were allowed to swear more in your
right,
PG
and
movies.
it's just funny because I was watching it, and every time Marty mainly says it, it threw me off. Like I was like, oh wow, we're that wouldn't happen now. You would not put that line in a movie.
The Bad News Bears is rated PG, and they say the N-word in it.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And in Goonies, there's shits and fucks flying all over that movie. And
Gotta love the MPAA.
yeah.
What a virtuous one.
They've only gotten better.
Yeah, they really have. They're so good. The great regulators of film.
Yeah. Can I say my favorite line in this movie and in any of these three movies?
Mm-hmm.
I used to have it. This line is so funny to me. I laugh every time I hear it. And like when I was in high school and I had like instant messenger, AIM or whatever, this was my away message for a while. And when I first got on Facebook in like 2005 or whatever it was, like this was my only favorite quote in that section.
Okay.
And that is Doc Brown, 100 years ago, that's this year. That is so wonderfully absurdist to me. I love that line. And the delivery is perfect because it's so straight-faced. Like,
Yeah.
like he's legitimately delivering that information.
Right.
Like Marty saying something that happened 100 years ago, but he's speaking from a 1985 perspective.
Right.
And and Doc responds, 100 years ago, that's this year.
Right.
That's great.
I didn't know you liked that so much.
I love that line.
My nice surprise for this movie, which I had absolutely no recollection of, which really shows you I don't think I've seen this movie in a quarter century, was the ZZ Top. I loved it. It was great.
What are you talking about?
It was great. It was funny. I love ZZ Top. I love they made an appearance.
You love ZZ Top?
Yeah. What's wrong with you? They're
Who
a great
loves
band.
ZZ Top?
A lot of people, my friend. Top heads. Shout out.
Top heads? Is that a thing?
No, I made that up.
Oh, that's pretty funny.
No, I do like ZZ Top. I like them, man. I don't know what you're talking about. They're a good band.
They're embarrassing.
No,
And
they're
this
not.
is
That
coming
is
from-
a generational
And this is
thing,
coming
man.
from someone who sung the praises of Huey Lewis in the News last week.
You are flat out wrong. It may be because I'm a guitarist. I like some of their riffs, but I think they're a good band. Really good band.
I do like ZZ Top's Billy Gibbons in his recurring role as Angela's dad on Bones.
I'm glad that you got that in there.
Thank you.
I
What's
like-
their album? What's that stupid album that was like a big hit in the 80s?
Oh, right, the not stupid album, Eliminator.
Yeah, Eliminator.
It's awesome.
Sounds like a fucking soundtrack to American Gladiators or
It
something.
is awesome. ZZ Top's great. In fact, I read a little anecdote on Billboard.
Oh
That's
boy.
right. That's right. That they broke a camera at a certain point, the cameraman, and
I read this. This is pretty good, actually.
yeah, and so ZZ Top, Michael J. Fox went up and asked them to play a certain song. I'm not as no, not that song. I'm not as big a fan as I was making out because I couldn't even remember the song that he picked, but I do like the band a lot. But anyway, so they played it for him, and then they kept playing, and 2 hours later, the band said, "How's that camera coming?" And Zemeckis purposely just wanted them to keep playing because everyone was having such a good time. It's a nice.
Who cannot have a great time when ZZ Top is singing the praises of legs, knowing how to use them, stroking them beards, spinning their instruments?
I think you are making a big error in criticizing them. One of my favorite things of the last 2 years was seeing the Wheezy Top when Weezer and ZZ Top played Sharp Dressed Man together. It was fantastic.
Oh, Weezer did that?
Two of my favorite bands.
That
and
couldn't be more embarrassing.
it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, when they show up in this movie, I'm just cringing.
Well, you're cringing for something like that. I'm cringing for something like in the Scream movies when I have to listen to, Avenged Sevenfold or whoever the fuck is in that. When you listed all those bands that were fucking truly
I'm
horrible.
cringing at that too, man.
You're comparing ZZ Top to all that garbage. Come on.
Here's the worst thing about it.
All right.
It's a movie that takes place in 1885.
Yeah, long beards were in then.
But they're so plainly ZZ Top.
That's
They
right.
don't have those rigs that allow them to spin their instruments.
Maybe Doc Brown invented them for them.
Shut up. Don't
You don't-
denigrate the good name of Emmett Brown.
Hey, he had a rifle with like a high-powered scope on it when he saves Marty in the beginning.
Yeah, that was baller.
Yeah, it was. I didn't remember that. That was cool.
Hey, the other big pop culture reference in the past is Marty McFly assuming the name Clint Eastwood.
Love it.
It's interesting, and I will tell you just like something about our age gap. He says in this movie at various times, "You talking to me?" He does the taxi
Yeah.
driver thing,
Right.
and "Go ahead, make my day."
Yep.
I heard those lines for the first time in Back to the Future
Oh
Part
my
3.
God. Oh my. And in Back to the Future 2, he says, "Hey, I'm walking here."
Hey! What, you want to bring back the Dice Man?
Sure.
No, not
Remember that though? He says that in the second one.
I don't remember that.
Completely out of context for no reason. The young wimpy Marty Jr. says it when he's almost hit by
Oh,
a car.
that's right. You're right. Yeah, with
Yeah.
his floppy arm that doesn't
Yeah,
work.
that's so funny that was the first time you'd heard that. Yeah, I was a big Dirty Harry fan already, and I don't think I'd seen Taxi Driver at that point, but I knew it as a cultural reference.
The first Dirty Harry movie I ever saw, I watched because I was big into Jim Carrey at the time, and I knew he was in it.
The Deadpool.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the last one.
Sure.
Yeah.
The second best movie with that title.
Oh, and then that great little talk about referencing the second Back to the Future when Biff's in the hot tub in another misogynistic scene where he's with those Playboy bunnies.
Yep.
Watching, actually, I couldn't tell you. I can't remember which Leone one that is, but it's probably of the trilogy.
I think it was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah, and he
And-
get. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I mean that was very clearly they'd already written Part 3, so they
Right.
were setting it up.
Yeah, so Marty saves his life by stealing a little page out of Clint Eastwood's book by wearing a metallic plate on his chest in the shootout.
It's very cool. I think the shootout sequence is really well done, and all the stuff in the bar right before that with Doc Brown like passed out on that intense whiskey, you know?
Yeah, and there's some old faces from old westerns too. They even gave him a starring credit. This guy, Buttram somebody.
Yeah, there's like
Yeah.
3 of them, and
Yeah.
they all have like 1 or 2 lines.
Right, and they're very funny and they look the part.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
It's nice color. Like, they make a lot more sense in this context than, say, ZZ Top.
Double back.
Oh, that is such a bad... Are you going to defend Double Back?
No.
That's the song ZZ Top wrote for this movie. I already tweeted out a screen cap of the credit.
Actually, they did not write the song for the movie. That was already on an album.
That can't be, because I think they were trying to get, like, Oscar
It
nods.
is on an album that I believe came out almost simultaneously. So maybe they stuck it on their album,
Yeah, it
or
must
vice
be like
versa.
it must be like that when, like, the Rembrandts album was about to come out, and they popped on the Friends theme song as the last track.
Boy,
Yeah,
you lost me.
I owned that album.
I bet you did.
I did.
Okay, musical taste guru. Yeah.
Good point. Good point. Fair.
I got an MVP for this flick.
Me too. I already said mine, actually.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to give it to Biff, but I gave it to him in the second one, and I wanted to give props finally, really, ultimately. I'm giving it to MJ.
Fox, he's great.
Yeah, I'm getting it. I'm giving it to Michael J. Fox. You know, he holds it all together. He's still great. I liked him as Seamus McFloy,
Oh, yeah.
and he's just good. He's just got the humor. He's my MVP. He's the first time I picked him as the MVP for these three movies.
I went with him in the second one. So,
Right.
So yeah, I'm going with my favorite incarnation of Biff is Mad Dog Tannen.
Yeah,
I'm also a big fan of Griff from the
yeah,
second movie.
yeah. That's why I picked him.
Why does Biff name his son Griff?
It's great. Why wouldn't he? It's a better question.
And why is he wearing a weird metal helmet that looks like a waffle iron?
Well, they predicted the future, and that's
Sure. But Mad Dog Tannen is just glorious. He just seems to be having so much fun with it, and it's such a deliriously off-the-wall performance.
Yeah.
I really love it. And I will say Christopher Lloyd...
He's
bringing back a little bit of that sort of melancholy that we flagged up in the first one last week.
Yeah.
I really like, Doc Brown with a case of a broken heart. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you had said that at some point a relationship went south, and not that this one will, but now you can kind of see that that's a possibility in terms of him being in love.
No, this one does not go south. It's confirmed, and we'll talk about
it
that
is.
later.
Yeah.
But I will also give props to Mary Steenburgen in an underwritten role.
Yeah.
But being very, very good.
She's great.
And she's never better right now. I think like we're experiencing a Mary Steenburgen-essence, like as much as we were a McConaissance a few years ago.
McConaissance, that's still going on there, brother. I hate to say it.
Well, but that was the start of it, and I think that's what's
Right.
happened with Mary Steenburgen. There was like a year there where, like just over the course of a few months, she showed up in great recurring roles on Orange is the New Black, Justified, and Togetherness, and then popped up as a regular on The Last Man on Earth. Like
That's where I know her from.
yeah, she
She's
is
great.
destroying now, and she's 63 years old and pretty sexy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And I saw the first season of Orange is the New Black. Is she not in that?
No, she's in the third season.
That's what I thought. I don't know.
Steenburgen, I sort of wrote off for a long time because I liked her in Back to the Future Part 3, but for a lot of the 90s, she was just popping up in stuff with Ted Danson,
Right.
who's her husband, and so I sort of wrote her off as like a Kate Capshaw or something, who's like riding the success of her
Ouch.
husband. Yeah, sorry, Kate
Ooh,
Capshaw.
boy.
Spielberg's wife. And, but, like, because, like, I used to watch her in that show, Ink, which lasted one season with Ted Danson. She was just always in things with Ted Danson.
Well, including something she was doing Ted Danson where she was back on my radar, which was Curb Your Enthusiasm.
True, right. And so I liked her in that, but again, she's playing Ted Danson's wife on that.
Right.
And so it really wasn't until the last few years that I was fully able to appreciate Mary Steenburgen. And she's very good in this movie, and the Doc Brown Clara relationship, I think I'm not always invested in it on an emotional level, but
Right.
it is satisfying to see them end up with each other at the end.
Yeah. Did you like the ending with the speed train thing, or were you just kind of like, let's finish this up?
No, I'm perfectly fine with that. I like the race with Needles where he sees the car that he would have been hit by.
And it subsequently alters his future and presumably becomes a rock star.
Yeah. He becomes a rock star.
Did you catch in Back to the Future 2 when he comes home in 2015, old Marty, and picks up his unplugged electric guitar and starts playing the riff from Power of Love?
I'm not sure that was the riff from Power.
Yes, it was.
Are you certain?
I am
Okay.
150% certain. Yep.
What was the name of his stupid band in that first movie?
The Pinheads.
The Pinheads, of course. Sure.
Yeah, it's great.
Um,
Marty just rips off a lot of people. He rips off Huey Lewis in alternate realities, and Johnny B. Good. He rips off Chuck Berry. He's not an original rock star.
and Clint Eastwood.
And Clint Eastwood. He's big on referencing and stealing things from other dimensions, but that's okay.
So this movie, I'm gonna give a 3 to. I feel like you're going 4.
I am.
Okay.
I am, which is really surprising to me. I did not think I would do it, but I'm going 4.
Okay.
I had a better time during this than I did during 2, and I think
it's a better time. I think it's a more fun movie.
Yeah.
So you're going ZZ Top are like the Ewoks for me, though. They take something away.
Okay. We didn't do LVP either, so we can rank them and then LVP.
Yeah. Well, you're clearly going 1, 3, 2, and I'm going 1, 2, 3.
Correct.
Yeah. LVP is
tough.
It is tough.
I have the same LVP that I did for 2.
Who was that again?
Fake Crispin Glover.
Oh, yeah. That's true. We do see him at the end.
I couldn't think of anybody else because everybody else is so perfectly cast. There's really not anybody I was like, get him out of here. And Billy Zane's not in this one.
Yeah, I know. They gave Mad Dog Tannen different henchmen. I was a little annoyed by that. I liked the 3D guys, like high-tech 3D glasses.
Right.
In the future, in the second one, and I was hoping to see some old-timey 3D glasses.
Billy Zane was on his path to greatness with actually a movie he's quite excellent in. You're not going to like that I said that, but it's an excellent movie and a very good performance. Dead Calm.
All right. So
did you ever? Well, wait a minute. Did you ever see it, or
No.
is that just a brush off?
No. That's a brush off.
Well, Dead Calm is a very good movie. Anyway.
Hey, there was a movie on the top 10 list for 1990 that I'd never heard of that I Googled, and now I kind of want to see.
Run it by me.
I think it was like number 8 or 9 or something. It was an Alan Pakula film, Presumed Innocent.
You never saw Presumed Innocent?
No, I've never seen that.
That's an excellent movie. I mentioned that movie in the first podcast we did because of Bonnie Bedelia.
That's right.
She plays Harrison Ford's wife in Presumed Innocent. Excellent movie. Check it out.
Yeah, I want to see that. So, Back to the Future Part 3 comes out. Did I give an LVP?
No.
I'll go with yours. It's fine. I don't really have one.
Okay. I mean, you picked as
Yeah, what?
Well, you could give it to ZZ Top because, according to your logic,
good point. Billy Gibbons is my LVP.
I mean, you shouldn't because that's breaking the rules, and you wouldn't let me give it in Scream. I wanted to pick one of the I don't remember who it was.
But they're not in it. ZZ Top are
Okay.
characters in this movie.
All right, that's fine. But you did give an LVP to Creedence Clearwater Revival and Free or Die Hard, and that wasn't really fair.
That's true, I guess.
But that's fine. Go with ZZ Top.
And that makes sense. I was going to go with the Universal Studios backlot as my LVP because some scenes in this movie are shot in Monument Valley.
Yeah.
And those scenes look gorgeous, and they look so weird juxtaposed with the backlot stuff.
Yeah. I mean, if we're gonna start doing
no,
that,
we're not gonna start doing that.
Okay.
But I almost did.
Okay.
So part 3 comes out. It's not as big a hit, but it does fine. I really do think they should have waited a little bit because we're a year away in 1990 from Unforgiven coming out, which kind of revitalized the Western
completely revitalized it.
Not only creatively, but as a mainstream thing. Where
Tombstone and
Wyatt Earp and Wild Bill and And you know, The Quick and the Dead, and
Oh,
then
my God.
fucking yeah, this might have been better served being released after that. But I guess, you know, Universal, they can't see into the future. It's fine.
The Quick
They
and the
don't
Dead.
have they don't have the DeLorean.
No, The Quick and the Dead, starring Sharon Stone in her most famous role.
Yeah, Sam Raimi picture.
Is that? Oh my! Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
His follow-up to Darkman, I believe.
I like Dark
Oh
Man.
no, I think he did Army of Darkness between those movies.
I like that too.
Yeah, me too. So after Back to the Future, we really see hide nor hair of this franchise. Like it's over. There seems to be reverence about it, where like they don't even ever talk about possibly doing a reboot or a remake or a sequel.
True.
You know, the way Ghostbusters did recently, and
Yeah.
you know, Total Recall from the same year.
Everything else.
Sure,
RoboCop.
everything. It's really interesting. The only thing that happened after this was there was a brief cartoon,
Right.
which was actually overseen by Bob Gale.
Mm-hmm.
And that cartoon, I remember watching a few episodes, and it's interesting because it takes place after Back to the Future Part 3, so they're in 1985, and Clara and the kids are characters.
Oh.
And Mary Steenburgen even does the voice of Clara.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, it's very much of its time, though. It feels like a early 90s cartoon, but that was a decent time for cartoons, so it's not terrible.
I can't speak to that, so all right.
Yeah. So, Henry, should they have made these sequels? We found them entertaining, but should they exist?
That is a really, yeah, that's a toughie because you know, you asked me that with Die Hard, and I said no, and I ended up, of course, you know, we like some of those, but should they have made these sequels? Oh, I'm gonna say yes.
Creatively?
Yeah, because the setup is just too much of a gem. I can see. I'm not saying that they turned out the way I would have wanted them to turn out, but everything that the first movie does, even though it obviously stands alone, and I'll probably never watch 2 and 3 again, but everything in there, it pretty much kind of leads to forward thinking and making something with this machine, this DeLorean. It has to go other places. You know, these characters are great characters. It's fun to see them again. Sure, they should have creatively made sequels.
I kind of agree with you. I think this works as a trilogy. I never want them to make another one
Me neither.
in any format whatsoever.
I agree.
But, you know, Roger Ebert, in his review of the third one, compared it to a sitcom where we're just sort of checking back in with these characters that we enjoy.
Yeah, I read that.
And I think that kind of is what Back to the Future is. And I feel that way about certain movies. Like, there's no reason to have made movies after Ocean's 11, say. But it's just sort of fun to see what those characters are up to.
That's actually an excellent comparison, even though they couldn't be more different in tone. That you just know that the people involved, it's a project of love. They just love doing this,
and a project of fun. Like
right.
The fun they're having making the movie bursts off the screen.
Absolutely,
and yeah.
That's what I said earlier when you said God bless them, they're having fun.
Yeah. No, I was joking, but
right.
I also
know,
agree.
no, right.
And I will say that the other reason to make one after the first one is the first movie is Marty McFly's movie.
Yes.
And there's enough setting up that Emmett Brown is a compelling character that it's worthwhile to go back and get the completion of his character arc.
Sure.
Which I think we do.
Yeah.
So there you go. Back to the Future.